Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio. New York Rangers played a home and home series with the Detroit Red Wings this week. And they curb stomped them in the second game on Thursday. The Mets also had a crap ton of games since the last time we spoke on Saturday, and they're down 3-2 in the NLCS. They were down 3-1, but a crazy game, offensive showing, possibly the last game in Citi Field this season. The Mets squeaked it out and sent the series back to LA for game 6 on Sunday, where Sean Manaea, their best pitcher, will be going and a chance to get them to a game 7. So a lot to be happy about, excited for if you're a New York sports fan. Also, the Jets just traded for Devontae Adams, which is insane. They suck, so they traded for Devontae Adams. I'm not complaining. I honestly I like it. I like it. I'll start with the Jets first just to, you know, get them out of the way. But the Jets are quite possibly the most undisciplined sports franchise I have ever seen in my life. That game Monday night, Jets Bills, was the most miserable, hard to watch game I've ever seen. At least football wise. Terrible. Flags every play. Missing field goals, terrible, awful. Man, uh, for a team with such high expectations as the Jets, they're really shooting themselves in the foot time and time again. That's just the Jets' way. They can't get out of their own way. It's so frustrating. You're right in the red zone. You get in the red zone, what is it, like 3, 4 times, and you can't get a touchdown. You have to settle for field goals, and you don't even make them twice. That's awful. Terrible, man. At home, too. At home. What's up, nephew D? What's going on, buddy? But yeah, there's my rant on the Jets. They need to step it up. I'm not blaming Aaron Rodgers. Offensive line needs to step it up for him. Guy's 40 years old. He moves great for a 40-year-old man. The best quarterback I've ever seen the Jets throw out there. That was Pennington was before I started watching, so that doesn't count for me. But Rodgers, I'm not putting any blame on him. Yeah, he's got a couple interceptions, but guys are running the wrong routes. People are dropping the ball, taking pre-snap penalties, holdings. A couple times they had touchdowns where they were nullified due to penalties that really had nothing to do with the play. So again, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know, man. Jets are a hard team to watch. Not as hard as the Mets were. Games game 1, of course. Games 3 and 4 at home. Terrible showings offensively. You know, the pitching, it looks like they were pitching scared, pitching around hitters, and the plate discipline by the Dodgers is honestly so impressive. Anything that's just an inch off the plate, they don't swing at. They're so in tune with what they need to do. They look at balls and they swing at strikes and they make good contact, not just like really really good contact with the ball when it's in the strike zone. That's how they get their base hits. That's how they get men on. And Otani, when he's got men on, he for whatever reason he just thrives in that role. Whereas when the bases are empty, he can't do anything. Which is why I don't understand why the Mets don't go after him when there's no runners on base and Otani's at the plate. But in the first 4 games of the NLCS, the Mets were 4 for 27 with runners in scoring position before tonight. And I don't know what the numbers were tonight, but they had big hit after big hit. Everybody was clutch. They really showed up in game 5 when it mattered most, back against the wall. This looked like a completely different team. Last night felt like a team that was completely outmatched, that was just there, that didn't look like they belonged there, but at the same time, how much they had to overcome to get to this point as a fan. But the performance just didn't line up with that knowledge, if you know what I'm saying. Um, so the Mets are trying to mount a comeback here. This could have been Pete Alonso's last home game as a Met at Citi Field, and if it was, boy, that was one hell of a final act, man. Um, First inning, 3-run homer. Who's gonna get the big hit? Who's gonna get the big hit? It's gonna be Alonso, and it's gonna be a big 3-run home run. You know, I'm a fan when I watch baseball, I'm someone that's looking to keep the line moving. I'm not necessarily looking for the grand slam every single time. Just give me a base hit. Just get the next guy to the plate. Make this pitcher work. Make him throw 10, 20, 30 extra pitches in an inning more than he needs to. Keep the line moving. But I mean, when you hit the big home run at home to get the crowd going on their feet, they didn't stop the entire time. The Mets fans were with good reason. The team performed in front of them for one last time, and they showed up for them. So that got the ball rolling. Of course, the Dodgers are going to threaten. You can't keep them down for forever. Um, Very, very impressive squad. They didn't go away. They did not make it easy. The Mets kept scoring and tacking on runs, which I appreciate. I know people were calling out Mendoza's managerial decisions. There were a couple head scratching decisions last night. The Mets had the bases loaded and nobody out. Iglesias came up to the plate, and he's been ice cold and not in a good way. I expected Winker maybe to come up in that spot, a left-handed bat against a right-handed pitcher, or McNeil, and it just didn't happen. Then McNeil pinch hit later on for Bader instead of Winker doing that for Bader. It just didn't make any sense. But then when Winker, who had been kept out of the lineup in favor of JD Martinez, when Winker went in there, man, when he made connection with that ball with the bases loaded, I swear to God, I thought that was out. But the wind like kept it in, and the Mets just got it looked like they were getting unlucky, but at the same you can't say that they got unlucky because they couldn't get any hits. You gotta help yourself out, man. Like, I'm not gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. You gotta come through with the base hit. That's why I'm saying, like, just play it simple. Just go for the easier route. Don't swing for a 10-run homer because it's not possible. Don't swing for the grand slam. Don't swing for the fences. Just try and keep the line moving. Base hits after base hits. It's string a rally together. And that seems to be what the Mets motto has been when they were going on that crazy run. That was the best the Mets have looked this season, and they poured it all on in like in a 2-week span from the end of the season up through the conclusion of the division series. So, the Mets came out in full force tonight, and this is what they're gonna need to do here in game 6. But back to Mendoza, I'm scratching my head at Alvarez being in the lineup again in the last game after he took 3 called third strikes in game 3, okay? He comes back in game 4 and he gets a hit. I think he got a couple hits, but he looked significantly better. And then tonight in game 5, he had 2 or 3 hits. He was like 2 for 2 or 3 for 3 runs, driving in runs. The guy was good. I'm putting it on Mendoza there because he knows his guys. He empowered he empowered I was gonna say Vientos. Probably did that already too. But Mendoza empowered Alvarez. He pulled him aside in the dugout after he took that third called third strike in game 3. There was a tweet about that from Anthony DiComo. I saw that. And, honestly, I was one of the guys that was saying, yeah, Alvarez needs to sit. He's been struggling. He's ice cold at the plate. You need to put somebody else back there. Put Terens in there. You never know what could happen. but Alvarez came through. And you gotta give credit to Mendoza for trusting him and putting him in that lineup. I love it. I love it. I mean, he pushed the right button. It worked out for him. But when it doesn't work out, of course you're gonna call it out. But I'm sure as hell gonna call out when he makes the right decision too. And so far, at least in game 5, putting Alvarez back in there in game 4 really, really upped his confidence. He knows what he has in his guys. Like, we're just sitting at home. We don't know how these guys are in the locker room or in the clubhouse. Mendoza knows that. So I feel like people need to trust him a little bit more. Putting Winker back in there, I mean, in game 5, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer for sure, man. You can't go back with JD Martinez. The guy's been struggling for mightily for a while now. Winker has put together some great at bats, made solid contact. Tonight he had a triple, drove in a run, running the bases a lot better than he did in game 1. I'll tell you that much. That was a huge mistake. Huge mistake in game 1 that killed the rally. That was their only chance of coming back in that game. But the Mets are in this. They're in this. We should be proud as fans. Um, they got this far when no one expected them to. I certainly am. I'm glad that Mendoza went with David Peterson in this, which was I mean over Senga for sure, because Senga just didn't have it. I was talking with one of my buddies who coaches baseball, and he was saying that Senga was pitching scared. And it made sense because in the first inning, most of his pitches were out of the strike zone. The Dodgers are a very disciplined team. And when they put Peterson in there, this season he has changed his approach. He's locating the strike zone a lot more. And I knew that was their best shot at winning, was putting him back in there because at least he would attack the hitters. Sure enough, he goes after Otani on 3-2 to start the game. Otani gets a base hit. Same deal with Betts. He goes after him. Betts gets a base hit, but then he goes right after Teoscar Hernandez, who had been struggling. I don't think he has a hit in this series, and he grounds out, hits it so hard that Lindor throws it to first, and Otani can't move. He can't go home. Then soft contact goes right at Freeman, lines it to Alonso. Then he strikes out Edman. This is what happens when you go inside the zone. You have to throw strikes. Then if you get ahead in the count, if you get yourself into a pitcher's count where you have 2 strikes and you go out of the zone, yeah, maybe the Dodgers are going to look to be defensive and foul off a pitch, and they'll flail at something that's outside of the zone, right? But if you have to set that up, you have to work to get that. That's the thing. And I think David Peterson did a great job of that, at least in the first inning. Um, of course, they got into a jam when it was 8-1 and Reed Garrett had to come in. 8-1 or 8-2. Garrett had to come in already. And man, if he walks Freeman with the bases loaded, there's no telling what the game would turn out to be. So good on Garrett for coming in, striking out Freeman, going after him on 3-2. Good job by him. And then the pitching after that, solid. Solid. I mean, they let him back in. Pages had 2 home runs. Betts had another home run. But after the Betts home run, the Mets gave up nothing. 6 outs from Stanek, a 6-out performance from Edwin Diaz, who looked pretty solid in there as well. But the bats just did not stop. They didn't stop. The Mets kept tacking on, adding runs. No lead is safe. That's the mentality that they're gonna have to have. These games could very well be a shootout. Like game 7, if we even get game 6 could be a shootout. Right? Like, Manaea could hold them in there. Maybe he'll give up, like, 5 or 6 runs, but if the Mets get their guys on, which they have been doing the entire series, they have to cash in. If they could cash in, then it's a shootout. It's no longer a pitcher's duel. You're going back and forth. It's completely different than what the Mets' mindset has been the past couple months where good pitching keeps you in games and your bats come alive at the right time to get a big inning, and you win the game. Completely different if your game is just like a shootout back and forth here. But the Mets have a good shot at coming back here. I hope they can get the job done. They have their best shot. the best shot, if they go with the same exact lineup and Manaea pitching, they have an even better shot at winning the game than they did tonight with Peterson pitching. So I have complete faith that the Mets can get it done. If not, I'm not. I'll be upset for sure, but I'm pleased with what the Mets accomplished this year. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, and all the heroics that they went through. They have a team here. This is not this is not something you're going to move on from, right? They could still add. There's guys that they could probably trade for. I mean, if the Yankees don't win the World Series, Soto's a free agent. You don't think like you could convince him to come over? If you add Soto, there's no telling and improve the bullpen. There's a number of things that they could do. Ronnie Mauricio is going to be healthy next year. Luis Angel Acuna looks like a promising player for the Mets. This is a future here. There is something to build around here. Maybe Alonso doesn't return, but I have faith in the Mets. I'm a believer. You got to believe. We'll move on to the Rangers here. So the Rangers played the Red Wings twice this week, home and home series. And I'm not going to talk too much about that first game on Monday. I will say that the second period, as Dave Maloney hinted at on the radio, was a disaster in the Rangers' own end. They really tightened it up in the third period in that game. They barely gave up any chances. They added a couple goals of their own. And then they carried that into the game against in Detroit on Thursday. They take 2 early penalties and they give up, man, it was like maybe 5, 6 glorious chances that the Red Wings could not, for whatever reason, capitalize on. As soon as they kill those penalties off, Red Wings had like one more good chance. It was back the other way with Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. First shot on goal on Talbot in the back of the net. Just bam, counterattack. And I've seen enough. I said it last week, and I'm saying it again this week. The Rangers are a counterattack team. This is it. I've seen enough. They are a counterpunch team. If they could buy into that mindset of being a counterpunch team, you're going to give up a couple good chances, but we know Shesterkin or Quick is going to be back there, and we're going to turn right back up ice and come right back with a great chance of our own, but only we're going to score on it. If they could buy into that mentality at 5-on-5, this is going to be a dangerous team. Then I really believe that they're a Stanley Cup contender. Right now, it's not the power play that's pulling the weight. It's the 5-on-5 offense, man. They look great. I'm not gonna go super, super crazy because you cannot win the Stanley Cup in October. It's very early in the season. But man, this looks good. I hope it doesn't taper off like last season did. October, they look great. That 5-game road trip, fantastic. Last season, defensively, great up until November around the time Fox got hurt, Hedel got hurt. And then after that, it kinda split apart, at least, rush defense-wise. But if the Rangers can, you know, keep up this consistency of 5-on-5 goal scoring, they've scored 5 goals in 3 of their I think in 3 of their 4 games, and then 4 goals in that other game against the Red Wings. So, they've had 4 goals in all of their games. Great. You don't see that too often from the Rangers, I feel like. I mean, in the early days when I started watching, like, the Torts days, you'd be lucky to get 3 goals, let alone 4. So, Laviolette really I think I could tell he's got these guys listening to him and ready to run through a wall. Will Cooley came in the second intermission of the Monday night game against the Red Wings, and he told, Michelle Gingras that the Rangers needed to tighten it up defensively. That's before he even gets back into the room to hear what Laviolette has to say. Now I understand Laviolette's probably yelling at them on the bench, "We're giving up too many loud chances," because that's what he says in the post-game pressers, but he's got that. Laviolette has these guys. Like he knows he's got them working towards something. They're not lazy. Gone are the days where we don't know if the Rangers are going to put in a full 60-minute effort. Those were the Gerard Gallant, David Quinn days. The Rangers are in it. They're not being lazy. At times, it looks like they might be overcommitting. There was an example on Monday night. Panarin was coming back on the back check, and he like almost ran into Lafreniere, left the guy open, and that's how they tied the game pretty much at the end of the first period. The little things like that, but Laviolette has these guys listening to him. He's getting a lot out of these players. There's reason to believe here. The Rangers got close in the playoffs, of course, against the Panthers. But if they can keep up this level of offense, they'll be a force to be reckoned with. Very early in the season, though, we'll see what happens. Big game coming up against uh, our buddy Craig Berube on Saturday against the Maple Leafs, I believe. Um, Going back to the game on Thursday, I had to rewatch it today because I was watching the Mets game. The third period was easily the Rangers' best. Now, they took over the game after the Trocheck power play goal in the second period that made it 3-1. That was just the tip of the iceberg, man. Again, it's not the power play that's carrying this team right now. It's the 5-on-5 play. It's so good. They're getting great chances, not just perimeter play. Like, they're getting shots inside, they're getting traffic, they're getting to the net, they're getting to the slot between the dots. Incredible stuff to see here. The third period, easily their best, and they were just messing around too. Especially Zach Jones. Like, Zach Jones near the end of the second period, he's playing baseball, like keeping the puck in the zone. Then he goes between his legs, right? Crazy Cirque du Soleil move. And then in the third period, he goes for the Michigan in Michigan. Like, where is this coming from? He's playing with all the confidence in the world right now. He's having loads of fun. The Rangers were just, full pedal to the metal, full acceleration in the third period. You love to see it. Man, they didn't give him anything. That building was so quiet. I cannot believe a Rangers Red Wings game was that dull. It was just so one-sided. I couldn't believe that. Rangers Red Wings games are never like that. They're always one goal games. Doesn't matter who's been on the team. It's just always been like that. Uh then Jones was holding the puck up against the glass and you could hear the ref, "Put it down! Put it down!" Crazy. It's so funny, man. Like they're just screwing around and they're just dominating. Dominating. I mean, I don't expect that level of play to carry out throughout the entire season, but for once, it's nice to watch. That was the Rangers were bullying them. That was a curb stomping. That was just, man, the Rangers came out in full force and really dominated that game after they survived a flurry of chances in the first period on those power plays. A 5-on-3 man advantage for the Red Wings, and they could not cash in. The net was open so many times, and they just couldn't bury it. I don't know what it is. And many had the Red Wings as a playoff team. It's not looking good so far. You'll have to see what happens. I think they could make a comeback and, make it to the playoffs. But again, the season is long. So we'll have to wait and see. And speaking of having a long season, Ryan Lindgren is already practicing. It looks like he's nearing a return. But my question is, what is the obsession with getting him back in immediately? He's a warrior. He's gonna block shots. He's gonna take big hits. He's gonna bleed. He's going to get hurt. I don't understand the rush to put him back in the lineup over Mancini, who's doing well, who also got his first NHL goal, by the way, on Thursday against the Red Wings. I think the Rangers should run a platoon. I mean, Ruido, I don't think they really need him. Mancini is playing fine. To me, he's at this point, he is ascended to the Zach Jones 7th defenseman level. I understand he's young and, you'd rather him get AHL minutes, but I don't think that's gonna benefit him. I think he's ready for the NHL right now. He's already playing against NHL competition, and he's doing a pretty good job. So, my thing is, if you know Lindgren is injury prone, why not prioritize health? And I've said it again. I've said it time and time again on the show. The Rangers are a playoff team. I fully expect them to be in the playoffs come April. So why are you so obsessed with putting your workhorse in the 5th game of an 82 game schedule when you know you're going to be in the dance at the end of the season? It doesn't make much sense to me. Like, I know you want to season him, like, you want to tune him up, you want to get him back into game shape. It's been a while. He hasn't played in the regular season yet. Lindgren hasn't. But you don't need to play him every single game. You don't need to run him out there every single night. Like, a healthy scratch is not a bad thing. It's maintenance. Like, they take maintenance days at practice. Why can't you take a maintenance day in October? Lindgren is not a guy that you want playing 82 of 82 games because by the time he reaches game 82, he's going to be down to a nub. You're not going to get the best out of him. You need to know what your players are, what you have in your players. Lindgren, I love him to death. Love him to death. No issues with him. But he needs to be 100% come playoff time. And he just simply was not that in this most recent playoff run. He playing hobbled by injuries, man. So I think the Rangers should run a platoon at least for the early season. Like, I mean, you could go with it maybe for 2 months. And then when the games start to mean something, when the standings get a little tighter, if you're pushing for the division title, yeah, you could if you feel more comfortable having Ruedel there as your 7th defenseman in case of Mancini, so be it. But man, I think Mancini is far, far outplayed any of those defensemen. Mackey, Ruedel, Robertson. He earned this spot, man. And I think he deserves to stay. There's no way they're gonna scratch like Truba or somebody in place so that Lindgren and Mancini could play. That's not gonna happen. I think what they should do is prioritize Lindgren's health. Save some games in October. What is the rush for him to come back? You cannot win the Stanley Cup in October. You got to wait until June to do that. And you don't do that with an injured Ryan Lindgren. No way. No way. I'd rather have a healthy Ryan Lindgren in the playoffs than Mancini filling in for him in the playoffs because you know what Lindgren is fully healthy. Uh, Also, in terms of fourth line injury replacements, the Rangers have run with Adam Edstrom and Sam Carrick and Johnny Brodzinski. Matt Rempe has played 1 game and he played like 3 minutes. Man, I think he needs to start getting some more run. Clearly, I think Edstrom is the better player. I think far and away he's just more talented, has more to offer, better skater, offensively gifted, could pass it, good screen. Like I could go on and on about him. Edstrom is playing really, really well. I'd be very upset if he was taken out of the lineup. Carrick has been great, has been really good, surprisingly good. I am very surprised. I keep saying that, but it's just Carrick I thought was just gonna be just Barkley Goodrow light. He's better than Goodrow. He looks pretty good. He made some pretty good passes. Brodzinski doesn't look out of place. The speed brings a nice element to the fourth line. A couple weeks ago, I said, I don't like the size and how that matches up on the fourth line, but there is a pretty good blend of size and speed there. It's not bad. But again, early in the season, October, give Rempe some run, man. Let him play a couple games. Like I know you don't want to be on the penalty kill all the time, and he's got a reputation with the referees, but it's an early season game in October, man. Just let him play. Let the kid play. Will Cooley is a dog, like DAWG. That's no like a Shih Tzu or like a happy golden retriever. No, Will Cooley is like a German Shepherd, maybe a Rottweiler. The guy is hitting everything in sight. He looks solid to start the season. The third line is tough. All their games have been great. No complaints from me. No, none, none. Hito looks like $1,000,000 out there. Kako looks solid. I think he had a point or maybe 2 against, Detroit on, Thursday. He set up, that was Mancini's first goal. Yeah, he set that up. Passed it back to the point. Mancini got a shot in, and it beat everybody. Um, but that third line, the 2 scoring lines for the Rangers have been that third line of, Cooley, Hedel, and, Kako, and of course, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. That that leaves that Zibanejad line to be like a shutdown line, which is nuts. You're paying all the money to those guys, and they're focused on defense apparently. And Zibanejad, based on how he played in overtime against Utah, didn't do much of that. Um, but I mean, hopefully Zibanejad could turn up the goal scoring pace. I know last week I said the noise needed to get louder amongst the fan base of calling him out. He definitely hears it. He tries to tune it out. I know he does, but he knows that he needs to step it up. He had a good game, a good step in the right direction, I would say, on Monday. Wasn't, you know, eye-opening. It was a 3-point night, but he had one 5-on-5 point, and that was just a face-off win to Smith. I need to see that vintage Zibanejad, like 2018, 1920 Zibanejad that's sniping, shooting the puck. They need that. They need that. That takes the Rangers right now, the Rangers are a two-line team, and the 4th line the dude, the 4th line is making them run around like crazy. They're playing great, great hockey. I mean, I talked about them all individually, but as a unit, man, they're impressive. Edstrom, Carrick, and Brodzinski, very, very good, solid. But a 2 scoring line team, the Rangers are right now. They get Zibanejad to start scoring. That's 3 lines, man. 3. That's tough to beat. And I understand it doesn't need to be right away. I did say that you can't win the cup in October. If this takes months for Zibanejad to get going, so be it. So be it, man. I just need by playoff time, I need Zibanejad to start potting goals the way he used to. Breakaways, around the front of the net, shooting it short side, over the goalie's shoulders, shooting it. Right now, he's playing like a defensive playmaker rather than a finisher. He's a finisher. That's what he needs to be. It's like when the Rangers traded for Rick Nash, they traded for a goal scorer. The guy scored 40 goals a year on a crappy Columbus Blue Jackets team. They got him to score goals because that's what the Rangers struggled to do under John Tortorella. When he came to the Rangers, all of a sudden he became an all-around player. In the Alain Vigneault years, like in 2015, 16, after his 40-goal year in 14, 15, he became more of an all-around player, which is not what the Rangers needed him to be. They needed him to be a goal scorer. This is what I see happening with Zibanejad. And again, he similar to Nash, he's a very streaky player. Very, very streaky. So, I'm looking at Zibanejad and saying, like, "Listen, the defense is great. I'm more concerned about the offense, man. Just put it in your head to shoot. Use that wrist shot of yours, man. When it's on, it's freaking on." I'm just, man, it's still early in the season, so I'm not gonna get too angry. That's my only gripe with the Rangers right now is that Zibanejad, uh, needs to get it going offensively at 5-on-5. Um, let's get to the ice cold take segment here, and then we'll wrap it up. If you're listening at home, of course, the ice cold take is a noun. It's an accurate statement backed by facts and observations that is solid in nature, similar to a block of ice, i.e., a spot on claim. So, on this week's ice cold take segment, should the Rangers stick with Fox Miller as a pair after Lindgren returns? I was listening to Vince Mercogliano's podcast earlier today, and he was saying that he thinks that when Lindgren comes back, they're just going to slot Lindgren back in to his normal spot with Fox, and that's because Fox is, probably prefers that. And I understand that, but man, the ceiling that you have potential wise with Fox Miller is, oh my gosh, man, so, so high. Like, you don't know what you have in that. You know exactly what you're getting with Fox Lindgren. You could get something special with Fox Miller. They look great so far. Their analytics are beautiful. Beautiful. So far, so, so, so good. It's not just before when I first wanted Fox Miller to be a pair, it was just in like offensive zone situations when you're trailing late in a game. I think they need to do away with that entirely and just go with it the entire game. They work really well together. There's going to be some growing pains. Yeah. They're not gonna be perfect right away. It's not gonna be Fox Lindgren level of chemistry right away. Think about where Panarin and Trocheck, right? Panarin's first year Trocheck's first year with Panarin, the line didn't click that well. I mean, it was a revolving door of right wingers. Of course, they tried Kravtsov, they tried Lafreniere earlier in the season, then they got Tarasenko, Dryden Hunt, blah, 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 blah. All these guys in there, Veezy, Goudreau. They put guys that they couldn't blend with. But then also the chemistry between Panarin and Trocheck wasn't there. It is there now, but they stuck with it. They went back to it. They were doing Panarin Hedel. Hedel gets hurt, so they're forced to go with Panarin Trocheck. And then because of that situation, you have what you have right now. So Lindgren is out right now. You're having that same exact situation. Fox and Miller are pairing together, and they're playing really, really well. They're your best defensive pair, your two best defensemen. I don't look at defensive pairings as like forward lines where you want to split up guys to create more depth. There's not as many defensemen as there are forwards. So put your top two defensemen together, your two best defensemen together. They look great together. Now, I understand that creates some complications in the bottom two pairings. Who you're gonna put Trouba with? Are you gonna put Trouba with Lindgren? Or are you gonna put Trouba with Jones? Trouba with Schneider looks okay so far, but it's the righty-righty thing that the Rangers are hung up on. I don't know, man. Too many ifs and question marks. And so that's what's gonna keep them from seeing the potential ceiling they have, potential awesomeness they have long term with Fox Miller is just, well, we can't put a righty with a righty. So we're gonna put Fox back with Miller and then or Fox back with Lindgren and then Miller back with Trouba or Miller with Schneider and then Trouba with Jones. I think that's I think that's not a valid reason. I don't think that's a valid reason to not go with Fox Miller. I think they're good together. They'll work out their growing pains early in the season. I think you need to trust them. They're your best defenseman. Miller looks great so far this season, outside of like maybe one or two turnovers in that Utah game for sure. He had one turnover that led to a goal. Outside of that, he's looked great. I have no complaints about Keandre Miller. Adam Fox, it looks healthy, which is great. They need him to be healthy. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know. To me, it's not an argument. I think the Rangers have to stay with Fox and Miller. There's my ice cold take for the week, the day, whatever. But the Rangers are in a good spot right now, early in the season. What are they? 3-0-1. Good start so far. Lots of teams have played more games than them. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. They're not going to win every single game, so I'm expecting some losses here and there, and that could be due to a number of things. You know, maybe the defensive pairings, maybe the forward line's not clicking. I'm fine with Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere just generating offense and being deficient defensively. Um, I'm fine with that because those are your guys that you're going to turn to. If you need a goal late in the game, you're going to put those guys out on the ice. So they're going to cheat for offense. But if you need the goal, you need the goal. Those are your guys. You turn to them. No problems with that. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here. I know this was just a one big giant ramble of a podcast episode, but I really didn't have too much time to prepare. Been busy all week with job stuff, work, interviews. Hopefully next week I could get a guest on so that we could have some sort of structure back with the show. But anyways, let's go Mets, go Jets, let's go Rangers, and let's go Mets again. LFGM. Bye guys.